And we're live. All right. Welcome to Basketbros. This is the show where we have the greatest throwback basketball coverage this side of 1990s. I am Denzel Snipes, and I'm going to get the crew in here in a minute. For those of you all who are coming off of watching March Madness, an ACC team is in the Final Four, and it's not Duke, North Carolina, or Virginia. So congrats to the Hurricanes. Texas, you had a fun season. Interim coach definitely earned this contract. The athletic director did come out and say they don't discuss contract matters during the season, but I would like to think that he more than earned it. So congrats on a good season, Texas. You won the Big 12, and hey, looking forward to next year. But and also congratulations to San Diego State. Wow, they pull off a thriller, and they are in the Final Four. So your Final Four is FAU. Congratulations to FAU as well. They'll be facing San Diego State, and Miami will be facing UConn. But let's get the crew in here. Coming all the way live from Charlotte, North Carolina, we got Will Vogel. How you doing, man?
March Madness is crazy. Who knew?
It is.
If you would have told me Miami, it's possible because they had a really good ACC tournament. San Diego State and FAU. What do you expect? These schools are pulling off what Butler did in the past, what Loyola Chicago did in the past. I bet you those schools are grinning with happiness saying, welcome to the club. Welcome to the fraternity, brother. So, yeah it's definitely going to be good. I was born in Connecticut. I don't really call them as my second team. So I'm low-key going for UConn. But you know what? If FAU or San Diego State or Miami wins it, I'll be okay.
Hey, real quick before we get the others in here, listen to this fascinating stat regarding UConn. So it's no secret that the Final Four is in Houston, Texas this year, right?
Yes.
UConn's last 3 national championship victories took place in the state of Texas. 2004 was in San Antonio, 2011 was in Houston, 2014 was in Arlington.
Talk about familiarity.
Yeah, they love the state of Texas. But let's go ahead and get he's out on the road right now. But it looks like he's came to a full stop. But come on in here, Jacob Christner. Welcome.
Yeah, I've had a bit. I didn't get to watch any of those games today because I decided to relax elsewhere, and I was working on a short film. We were studying a script for a short film, so just kind of stayed busy even for relaxing.
Okay, no problem at all. And well, as soon as he gets back on screen here. Okay, here he is. All right, he's back. He made it just in time. He had to rush home from dinner with some colleagues, and he's here. He is the architect. He is the founding father. He should be on a dollar bill. He's a founding father of the South Florida Tribune. Come on in here, Scott, Motor City Madmouth, Morganrath.
There we go. Yeah, it's been a pretty interesting hour or so. Just came back from Ruth Christmas with my dad, my wife, and my brother, and we just barely made it. You want to talk about a close shave in more ways than one? I made it here. So yeah, I'm wearing FAU colors tonight. I'm going to the Miami football pro day tomorrow, so I'll feel a little bit of Final Four business, inside. It's pretty cool stuff. So I'm glad to be on tonight. And think 2 of the 4 schools are from Florida and 2 are from South Florida. Unbelievable, isn't it?
Yeah, that's crazy.
So and one plays in a home venue that only holds 2,900 people.
That's nuts.
Crazy.
2,900? That's crazy.
My grandma lives right across the street from FAU. It's crazy.
I'll be writing on this. I write for the Tribune once in a while, but this is definitely something I'm working on. I'll be writing on. Well,
you want to know what this means now? This just means that no one. We were talking about this early week. No one's afraid of that name on the jersey anymore. No one is. There is no worries about Duke. No one's. That means that you literally. This is the thing about parity. They're literally going to have to win on merit now. It's not just being deathly afraid of the Duke or Carolinas or anything. No one cares. NAIA schools just up to about 6-7 years ago were beating, or 10 years ago, were beating Syracuse at home on Syracuse's home play. So it's like so it just doesn't matter. They all have Division I talent now.
Well, let me
Yep,
explain
they
a couple
do.
of other things too that's interesting here about my neck of the woods. We talk about Miami and FAU, but there's a Division II school called Nova Southeastern University that won the Division II with a
36-0.
36-0 record. So Dade, Broward, and Palm Beach County. There's some pretty good basketball played in my neck of the woods. Nova Southeastern University.
With
So
111 points in the
what's
final
that?
game.
What's
With,
that?
with 111 points in the final game.
Unreal.
Yeah.
I was out there a few years ago before the pandemic, but the Sharks, kudos to them as well. March Madness recap, for crying out loud. I mean, now you got Nova Southeastern, a Division II school under Jim Crutchfield. I was out there couple of years ago, 2-3 years ago before the pandemic, and they got a good little program there. But think Miami and FAU. And to further document your point, though, Jacob, 3 of the 4 teams are in the Final Four for the first time in their school.
First time ever.
And
Yep.
can you imagine if Miami didn't make it an FAU? Oh, that would have been interesting down here.
An all Florida national championship. Wow. That.
But here's what I'm saying, Denz. Okay, if FAU would have made it and Miami didn't to get to the Final Four, boy, FAU would have big time bragging rights. But it's safe to say that Miami and FAU did get their first Final Fours ever. So it'll be a pretty interesting week in these parts over the next week for sure.
They did, and I was watching the other day, and they were giving commentary as no one. It's more than just the Dukes. No offense, Will. More than just the Dukes, the North Carolinas, and all of them. But it's like no one fears the Blue Bloods anymore. They were talking about Kentucky. No one fears Kentucky anymore.
Right.
Yeah.
No one fears Kentucky anymore. Now, granted, the Blue Blood won it last year in Kansas, but no one fears Kansas anymore. Texas, for example, won 5 of their last 7 against them. So there you go. It used to be, it was like the same 6, right? What was it? Duke, North Carolina, UCLA, Villanova. Who else? I just said it. UConn, Kentucky. Yeah, it was those all in it. And then now you look, and granted, yes, UConn is in it now. I don't think anyone kind of saw UConn coming this year, but whatever. Miami.
Before you go onto that, and we got to go to the topic pretty soon, probably. I wanted to say this part. One of the things that this is going to cost, you know what this is going to cost a lot of? This is going to cost a lot of NAIA and small town schools getting exhibitions against the big boys, because the big boys are not going to take the beating from the possible loss. You got to remember, it used to be the money game. You win by 40 or something. Now anybody can lose.
That's true.
Now anybody can. Yep, absolutely. And there's
more. Those schools have a hard time scheduling. That's for sure, Jacob. I'm sorry, Denz.
Oh no, it's because it's more of that happening. Like you remember years ago when Stephen F. Austin upset Duke. So you have more of that happening in college basketball than say college football. College football, you might get a small school like every once a year, maybe once every other year that'll beat a heavyweight on the road. But in college basketball, it's a little bit more like even. That's why March Madness is so beloved.
Even the footballs are catching up. It's just not as much as basketball, but the football's catching up too.
They are. They're starting to catch up. Look at Appalachian State. Appalachian State beat Michigan so many years back.
Hey, I don't need a reminder of that. Please, come on.
Keep reminding.
No. Hey, listen, I just had a great steak from Ruth Chris's. I don't want to feel like I'm eating crow with the Basketbros. No. Can't do that to me. I broke speeding records to get here to be on this show, and now you're reminding me of Appalachian State, Michigan. No. And by the way, about this camp is where I was when they ended up beating them. I covered my first FAU game ever against Middle Tennessee, and FAU beat Middle Tennessee at the old Lockhart Stadium. You can't do that, Denzel. I had a good meal.
Hey, Will, what was that you said about using OSU, Ohio State's fight song here tonight? No.
I think he froze up here. Well, and also for the record, before we move on, Scott, Michigan and Appalachian State did rematch, and Michigan beat them. So
sure, they had to do the same face, and you know what happened when they went out? And I'll bet Michigan paid them more money just to get even after that embarrassment that they got a $550,000 for. But I got to tell you a funny story about that, though, Denz, and all you guys. All right, I had a guy that used to be a prognosticator locally, and he asked me what I thought of the Michigan game because I don't think there was anything on the board about that game. But at that time, Appalachian State was coming off a championship on that level. And I told him, I
They
don't know
were.
why. Sometimes when you get an instinct, and you guys know you've been around me long enough, Will, Jacob, and Denz, okay? So sometimes you have to get an instinct. And I told this guy, I don't know why, but this Michigan Appalachian State game is going to be a lot closer than most people think. And lo and behold, Appalachian State won because you
Did.
don't ever underestimate a team that's won a championship at a lower level against a blue blood. Because that
Yep.
means that they were the best in that class, is what they
In that
were.
class.
You follow me? And I told this guy, and then he came back to me, how did you know that? I said, well, it's just a hunch. He said, I'm going to be riding on your hunches a lot more. But then I also told him that one, okay, here's a little thing. I know we're getting off topic of March Madness, but here's the thing about football is, number one, a few things cost you from winning a game. Sometimes special teams will come into play and weather will come into play, and then coaching. But special teams and weather, or what we call the intangible facets, will come into play. And if you lose 2 or 3 games because of those, you're pretty much out of the, at least from a college football standpoint, you're out of the national championship break because of bad breaks, bad luck, and bad intangibles. So
Right, absolutely. And but that was a good that was a good point. Is that
man,
Appalachian
until you
State? They
made
were
me
coming
eat
off
crow
of
over it.
they were
Until you
coming
made
off
me eat
of
crow over it. What, I gotta say that the whole show? Go ahead.
but no, you're right, because they came off of winning, I think, their second straight national championship at that level, and they won it again that year. So it wasn't out of the realm of thought. But we do have to get on to our well, now second topic. But our Basketbros legend, unfortunately, lost his life earlier this week, and that is Willis Reed. Now Willis Reed. He went to Grambling State. He was drafted eighth in round 2 of the 1964 NBA draft. He played center, and he played from 1977 to 1989. Some career highlights: he's a 2-time NBA champion, a 2 times Final Most Valuable Player, an NBA Most Valuable Player in 1970. He also was a 7-time NBA All-Star, All-Star Game MVP in 1970, All-NBA First Team, 4-time All-NBA Second Team. He was All Defensive First Team. Let's see, Rookie of the Year and NBA All Rookie Team. He's on 2 NBA anniversary teams, and New York Knicks number 19 retired. He averaged 18.7 points per game, 12.9 rebounds per game, and 1.8 assists per game as a center. He's in the College Basketball Hall of Fame and in the Pro Basketball Hall of Fame. And not to mention, he added a gold medal in the 1963 Sao Paulo Pan American Games. This guy is in the pantheon of like New York Knicks legends, right? You know, you figure you got Ewing. Who else? Let me see here.
Olajuwon.
No. As far as Knicks legends,
Oh, I'm
you know,
sorry.
Ewing.
Okay.
I was trying to think off the top of my head. I
Well,
was
yeah,
having a
Walt
brain freeze.
Frazier should be in that
Walt
category.
Frazier,
Right?
yep. Walt Frazier, absolutely.
Busher's another guy, right?
Mm-hmm. Yep. Willis Reed, right there along with him. You know,
Red
a dude
Holtzman
that
Red Holtzman is also the coach of that team too.
Yeah, that's right. He sure was.
Years of Brett Hoffman.
Yeah.
Bill Jackson, I believe, was a part of those teams as well. If I remember.
Phil Jackson was. Yes, he was. Absolutely. Now at Grambling State, and you talk about a historical dude at a historical HBCU. He had actually 2,200 career points. He averaged 26.6 points per game and 21.3 rebounds per game, which is pretty disgusting, you know, even by today's standards. He led the Grambling Tigers to 1 NAIA title and 3 Southwestern Atlantic Conference championships. He also was a Phi Beta Sigma. All around good. I mean, he was just excellent at any level here, you know. Willis Reed, and he really should have been on 3 anniversary teams, just neither here nor there. But I want to swing it over to Will. Your thoughts on the late, great Willis Reed?
Yeah, Willis Reed, we've talked about it on Basketbros. We had a throwback Basketbros moment in time where he hobbled onto the court against the Lakers in the NBA Finals. Like, we all have seen the clip where he runs out. The crowd is really happy to see him. He was dealing with a leg injury. But yes, Willis Reed, he scored 46 against the Lakers as a rookie. And that Lakers team was no slouch. That was a dynasty Lakers team. And it was the second highest single game scoring title by a Knicks rookie. 46
Yes.
points. And in 1968 and 69, The Knicks held opponents to league low 105.2 points per game. He was on that team with Walt Bellamy, Dave DeBusschere, Bill Bradley, Walt Frazier,
Well,
Dick
Frazier.
Barnett, and Phil Jackson. They would go on to have the best defensive team in the league 5 out of the next 6 seasons. He's also the first guy to win NBA All-Star MVP, regular season MVP, Finals MVP in the same season.
Nice.
Also, I didn't know this about him. He also actually helped coach. He coached Creighton. He was an assistant for St. John's. He was an assistant for the Hawks and the Kings. He coached the Nets in the 2000s, the early 2000s, helped them become a really good team. He was also the general manager and the vice president for the Nets. And lastly, he was with basketball operations for the Nets and the New Orleans Hornets. But talk about a guy who was one of the best big men, probably most underrated big men, but he's up there for sure. He's not my top 5 big man, but he is close. But yeah, talk about a New York Knicks legend. Whenever I think of Knicks, I always think of either Walt Frazier or Willis Reed in my mind.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely, and it's nuts, because he's one of 2, maybe 3 big men that are up there in that upper echelon. But I want to swing it over to Jacob and give your thoughts about Willis Reed.
Wasn't Willis Reed, by the way, wasn't that whole thing when he was stumbling on the court and wasn't that a quad injury?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it was.
Think about that for a second. We wrestling fans, you and me, Jay, you and me, us wrestling fans, we saw Triple H tear his quad twice, especially once where he finished the match, but he was on the floor flat face by the time it was over. And he gave one last thing before he rolled out of the ring, and then they did the moves. They did spots and all that kind of stuff. He couldn't even move anymore. Willis Reed, with a severe strain to slight tear, stumbled onto that court. And he went up the thing and scored the first 4 points. You got to realize just how tough that has to be. How tough do you have to be able to do that, especially when you're running off the court, onto the court to be able to do that,
Yeah.
But think about this, another thing. He was a rarity as a center. First off, remember his first 4 points, a couple of the smooth left-handed jump shots from about 16, which centers did not do that too often. Centers didn't go past about the 6-foot line. You know what I mean, Scott?
Oh, yeah.
Centers didn't go past about the 6-foot line. They used to show these clip of the Wilt Chamberlain making a 3-point hook, just for his little practices, and they're just like in awe. But that's because they never went past the 4 to 6 feet. He's hitting these 16-foot first 2 shots. So the biggest thing that you can say about this is he was an all-around player, and it's like, and he only had 2 assists a game for his career, but he could pass the ball. He gets rebounds. He also gave it all against the Wilt Chamberlains, the Kareem Abdul-Jabbars, and goes year after year. And that was the era of the center, because this was the deal. Until Dr. J won his MVP, it was centers for 17 straight years as MVP. So you got to remember, he's facing the top echelon of centers year after year after year. I mean, where he's going with that. I mean, there's the Russells, there's everything. So when you're dealing with that, no, he deserves every bit of what he was getting. But think about this too. Think about this. What year, by the way, what year did he? He got the 2 rings. That was the 71 and 72. 72.
It was go ahead. I'm sorry.
He got 72, 73, correct? He got 2 rings in.
He got his 2 rings were, hang on, let me check. His 2 rings were 70 and 73. 70 was when he did all that damage, when he won All-Star Game MVP, Finals MVP, NBA champion, and he won MVP the regular season. 1970, that was his year.
I really believe that it's like there are just players in this lifetime that come at a wrong time. That, maybe not because they don't do anything like that. Ewing probably came around with Michael, and all those, and Larry and all those. It's like Willis Reed comes around with the bare end of Wilt, then bare end of Russell, then he's got to deal with Kareem. And it's like he doesn't get the same amount and stuff like that, but he doesn't get the same amount, but he's got the 2 rings. So he deserves his props. There's no question about that.
Yeah, absolutely. I want to swing it over to Scott. Your thoughts on Willis Reed and his impact on the game?
Oh, number one, something the Knicks are enjoying that they've only enjoyed under 3 legitimate coaches since Red Holtzman. You had, I believe, Pat Riley coached there for a while, Jeff Van Gundy, and now Tom Thibodeau. So at least the Knicks fans can be able to associate with a few winning coaches. But yeah, there's no question that when you go back to our generation when basketball was fun to watch, Willis Reed played hurt. And a lot of guys nowadays were dealing with load management, for crying out loud. And these guys are playing hurt back then under some much more serious circumstances. Yeah, I'm thankful that he didn't fall into that category where he went ringless. Okay, and he won 2 at a very important time. So, Willis Reed's legacy will be defined. If you can define your legacy in the Big Apple, New York, you're doing well. I don't know how big the media was then, but I'm sure it was still relatively big even back then. So if you're able to win, let alone in the Big Apple, the number 1 media market in the country, regardless of the generation, you're doing well. But he's got at least 2 titles, and he played with a lot of great, excellent players. Some went into the Hall of Fame. So more power to him, and I think I'm happy that Tom Thibodeau is doing a pretty good job now with this generation of Knicks, because the game of basketball is awful. It is with the 3-point shot versus a hard rebounding. And you guys are right. You didn't, if you played 6 feet or under, that's what it was all about. I can't watch basketball if I'm watching a bunch of 3-pointers, but if you're driving to the hole, getting the conventional 3-pointer, and you're physical, and he exemplified and personified the basketball that so many of us are proud of. So that's why I mentioned Willis Reed. You know what? I don't think we had an opportunity to pay tribute to him like we wanted to before. But when the situation presented itself to bring him on as a legend, it allows us to not only recap a good era of basketball for the Knicks, but an opportunity to pay tribute to him as well. So it allows us to kill 2 birds with 1 stone. And I'm glad we went forward with this guy.
And
Sure.
Scott, one thing too, you're talking about it's hard to watch the NBA. It really is with all the 3-pointers. You notice that this, you remember that this whole NCAA tournament had a lot of ball movement.
Yes, it did.
Ball movement. There's been a lot of inside game. There's been a lot of 3-pointers, but there's been a lot of inside game and a lot of about 4 or 5 players touching the ball. It's very old school.
Well, now it is, because these guys can't keep depending on the 3-point play. You got to think, the thing people have to understand about the 3-point play is this, okay? One, if you miss it, you give the other team more time to score.
Yeah.
So that really works against you in a lot of different ways, doesn't it? So if you pound the ball in, you work the clock, then you're playing good defense, but remember when we were all kids, we all say play keep away. Okay, that was fun. I remember years ago when they didn't even have the shot clock, and a lot of the underdogs were winning because you got to hold on to the ball for several minutes until they changed it and implemented the shot clock. But no, Jacob, you're on point, no doubt about it. I mean, now you're seeing more driving to the basket, which is good basketball in the NCAA tournament, but you keep depending on the 3-point shot. You live and die by that. You really, really do. And unfortunately, it's just something that I watched more basketball during March Madness, mainly because of Florida Atlantic and a little bit of Miami. Otherwise, I'm so busy. You guys all know how busy I am with my network, as well as all the other things I have to do, to really watch a whole lot more of this. So any way we can play the game of basketball the other way, I maintain my interest a lot more.
Right, absolutely. The game is constantly evolving. It makes you wonder what's going to happen in the next 10 years. Is center-centric offense is going to come back? It's like as I mentioned when you were saying that they were going against the upper echelon of Willis Reed went up against the upper echelon of centers during this time period, and throughout time we saw the era of the center switch to the era of the guard. and also in some ways, forward, especially when you're talking about LeBron. And it's like it's like now they start because it used to be you pick your center and then you build your team around him. Now you're picking your backcourt and you're building your team around them. You know what I mean?
It is and just to say this real fast, in a way there is kind of a resurgence of center. It's just a different type of center because the top two in the MVP rates are both centers.
Yeah, that's true. It's crazy because, like, how, like, back then you would come across a big man and it's like, oh man, he thinks he's a guard. Nowadays they playing like guards, So that's what's so crazy. Like, look at Giannis, and there's a reason why that man won the MVP. Look at Jokic. Jokic is probably I think Embiid's gonna win it, but Jokic has a shot of winning his third straight most valuable player. He's doing everything out there.
Let me point something out that you guys are saying, which really makes a whole lot of sense. You ready for this one? Remember when Magic Johnson won his first championship and Kareem couldn't play, and then Magic had to move to the pivot? And how did that turn out? They ended up winning. And that's what, even though Magic didn't go ahead and create the ball handling center, it proved that a guy 6'9" or so, 10, whatever Magic was, can be an incredible ball handler. Anytime you see these kinds of things, what ends up happening is maybe we could expect a little bit more out of our center than we would otherwise, which enables us to fall into what you guys are talking about.
Yeah, that is true. It's it's a positionless league now, but you're right. Magic Johnson was, generally the first one to have played all five positions, though primarily, of course, a point guard. But yes, he can absolutely play 1 through 5. But I want to get on to this next topic here, and I'm really curious to hear y'all's commentary on this one. And it's our first BasketBros moment in time, the 1988 NBA Eastern Conference semifinals, Game 7, Wilkins versus Bird. These two had a slugfest. Wilkins outscored everybody with 47 points. Larry Bird had a 20-point fourth quarter explosion. He ended up with 34. McHale had 13 rebounds. Kevin Williams had another 11. Some guy named Doc Rivers had 18 assists. Danny Ainge had 10 dimes. Boston won the game, 118 to 116. But the article that I read said that this right here was actually the changing of the guard because the Celtics at the time were starting to age, and then the new guard was the Atlanta Hawks. So, but absolutely a classic game that doesn't get talked about. Swinging over to Will, your thoughts about this duel. I mean, what do you think of a guy like Wilkins hanging with a guy like Bird?
Talk about battle of superstars. You got the high flyer, the human highlight reel, Dominique Wilkins against a three-point shooter / smack-talking defender in Larry Bird. These guys went head-to-head battle. It was like head-to-head like every single game, nonstop action. I did research throughout the whole series. I know this is Game 7 for points. Game 1, Bird had 38, Wilkins had 25. Game 2, Bird had 16, Wilkins had 22. Game 3, 22 for Bird, 25 for Wilkins. Game 4, Bird had 30, Wilkins had 40. Game 5, Bird had 25, Wilkins had 22. Game 6, 23 for Bird, 35 for Wilkins. Game 7, Bird 34, Wilkins 47. So no one really dipped below 20 besides Bird once. But you know what? This is a battle of two really, really good teams led by two amazing players at their time, Larry Bird and Dominique Wilkins. And you know what? We talk about the Bird versus Jordan matchups, but this was something special because this Hawks team was fighting till the end to try to dethrone this really good Celtics team, and it's crazy. It's the battle of the superstars.
Yeah, absolutely. Great commentary on this one. When you give the point for point breakdown, right, as far as who scored what throughout the game, throughout the games, like the whole series, it's more than just Game 7. This was Wilkins versus Bird for all 7 games. You know, it was a heavyweight fight. You know, but swinging over to Jacob, because I know you're the resident Celtics fan. I know you remember this one. I know you've got you got something substantial to say regarding this topic.
Move it over to Scott. I know nothing about Bird. I mean, I'm too young for all that. No, just kidding.
Thanks a lot, Jacob.
No.
I appreciate it.
Yeah.
Here's a gray hair to not let you down. Okay.
Yeah, right. Wasn't that the 34-15-8 game, by the way, for Bird?
Yes.
Yeah, I thought so. Let me tell you this. That's the reason Bird won that game. I mean, it was not just a scoring thing. Bird did everything else. That's the big thing. But here's the deal with something like this. Bird lost his very first game 7, then won the next 8.
Yeah.
Then he was 11-3 in career deciders. I mean, think about this as being a kid. Think about this just for 1 second, and you're going home knowing they're going to win a game 7.
Yeah.
They're going to. You have zero worries because you have zero worries. It's a game 7. Oh, they got it. I'm just going to enjoy it.
Yeah.
And not only did they have it, Larry would come through. There was a bad game 7 in his outside of his final game of his career. I don't think it was a bad game 7 at all.
No, not at all.
Like his. I mean, just like those. Just think about those. It's like in deciding games, also like the game 6 of the '86 finals, 29, 11, 12. I mean, the triple doubles, the type of thing. That's the difference in a game like that. But the biggest thing to understand with something like this is the fact that I talked about this about 3 months ago about Atlanta. You would have thought that would have led to something big for the franchise because last 3 games were 2 points. Atlanta won by 2 game 5. The Celtics won by game 2 on the road by 2 in game 6, by 2 in game 7.
Yep.
And, all 3, and that could have just been like, we have got to finish. Nope. Not after. A couple years later, a year or 2 later, it was Bob Weiss, and boy, how boring that was.
Yeah.
How boring that was. But these are the things. It's like when you are a kid, when you're a kid like I was watching these games, it was the Bears of the 80s, and then the Celtics. When you're watching that thing, you just know. And it was, I put it to you this way. I started in 1984 for the Sunday. We didn't have cable, so I didn't watch every game for the years. You know, it's just the Sunday games. 1984, I did not see a Sunday loss in Boston Garden until 1990, the game 5.
That's insane.
Game 5 against the Knicks. That was the first time, and my jaw dropped. Bird doesn't lose those. He doesn't lose deciders. The Knicks did it. And that's an absolute shock. The thing. It's like when I see the Celtics lose, it would be usually in the Forum. It would be in the Forum. It'd be in the Forum or maybe in Madison Square Garden or something. But literally, did not watch one game on CBS that was a loss until 1990. That's 6 years. So
that's insane.
That's insane. So yeah, I saw winning, and when you see a game 7, every fan is going to be, oh my god, nervous, oh my god, everything. I was like, meh. You just know.
Considering his history, yeah.
You just know, and that's a thing. That's a great feeling to have that kind of confidence. That your star can come through, and I know I'm gonna bring that over to Scott because you know what I'm talking about in that.
Oh, yeah, I totally do. Well, number one, let's break this down, guys, in a couple of ways. First of all, Dominique Wilkins played in his home state, Georgia, right? Because he played for the University of Georgia.
Yeah.
He ended up playing for the Hawks, and we all know there. Number two, we all know about Larry Bird. You know what's so nice about these two players, though, is they didn't have to join super teams to have extraordinary success. Okay, Bird went to the Celtics. Wilkins, I don't know if he finished his career somewhere else, but he didn't leave to try to chase the ring because they were iconic individuals of their respective franchises. Now, for J.J. Redick, who does an outstanding job making an idiot out of himself on ESPN, complaining how good the league is saying how good it is these days compared to what it was then. I promise you, I'm not American Idol. Okay, I'm never going to be known for my singing, but do you believe in miracles? No. Okay. I'm not an American Idol. I'm not a Memorex guy who's going to go ahead and break the glass because I'm singing into something. But the reality is this, okay? There were a lot of great rivalries back then. You know, when Atlanta was good, okay, and they've had they have times where they've been good, but just not enough of them. And of course, we all know about the legend of the Celtics and my Detroit Pistons as well. Back then, you had the Palace of Auburn Hills, and prior to that, Pontiac Silverdome. So when you talk about the Game 7, what you had was David versus Goliath, or Ali and Frazier, because the word heavyweights does describe what you're dealing with when it came to that respective game in the semifinals. I believe the Pistons, if I remember right, ended up beating the Celtics in the finals and went on to go to their first NBA finals, only to lose to the Lakers in 7 and then proceeded to win 2.
Yeah.
But the biggest thing that people have to understand, that when you're going through your conference, that you have to feel that degree of heartbreak first, so you graduate to the hunger step the next year, which in turn, you know, the torch is passed. I remember when the Pistons, Kevin McHale approached Isaiah Thomas, go out there and don't be happy that you're there, but you win one for us, and gave the biggest darn high five. You know, the Pistons and Celtics hated each other, but when it came like, all right, we want the East to beat the West, there's where that's the only degree of friendship you're going to have back then versus what the patty cake baker's man business is now. It just is.
I get the feeling that the Detroit hated everyone, okay? Mind you.
Of course we did. Just like I hate a lot of people too, except you guys. So
I get the Detroit, if you would have asked them like at a gunpoint or something like that, who they would have respected more between the Bulls and the Celtics, would have said Celtics all day.
Oh, no doubt about it. Are you cotton picking crazy? You ever been to downtown Detroit where they used to have Joe Louis Arena, but they had that one statue with the big fist down there? That's us for Detroit. You know, big fist downtown, man. Oh, you kidding? They love the Celtics. The Celtics made their Pistons and taught them how to win. Okay, they did. You know, there's those heads banging on the floor between, was it Dantley and Vinnie Johnson, I believe? I'm trying to remember how we had that. You know, when heads collide, it wasn't a very good outcome. Oh, in Detroit, okay, we're warriors, man. Everybody don't like us. They think we're the murder capital of the world. No, we don't have the Sunshine State or anything to do with sunshine, but we're good old blue-collar people. And this team called FAU even played at Ford Field a couple of times. And you want to know, and I don't mean to get off topic, but you want to know an interesting irony here, going back to FAU before I get back to this subject, that the first time FAU won a bowl game was the New Orleans Bowl, and I was at that against Memphis. This year, their run to the Final Four occurred against Memphis. So you talk about ironies. Now, staying on point, just a little nugget I throw out there, okay? But yeah, you want those epic Game 7s. I've been to a couple of Game 7s, and I had an opportunity one time in Miami to talk to Huey Brown. And I'll tell you one thing, Huey taught me a ton of stuff. I saw Game 7s in Detroit when they took on, I saw Game 7s at the Miami Heat as well as the Chicago Bulls. And to tell me that there wasn't chills down my spine would be mildly stating the obvious. So, yeah, you know what, Jacob? You are so dead on, man. The Pistons loved the Celtics, and they hated the Bulls because they didn't like the way the Bulls were acting so cocky that last time they met. Okay, if you would have, the Bulls would have shown any type of class at all, instead of thinking, oh, we're going to knock you out. Remember that old thing early in the year when Ohio State said we're going to put 100 points on Michigan? How did that turn out a couple of years ago? You know, it's one thing to win, okay, but it's another one to not insult or disrespect your opponent to do it. And that's where you have to draw the line. And Larry Bird never disrespected an opponent. Anyways, I've told you, this guy's always thinking 3 steps ahead. And Dominique Wilkins just a hell of a player.
Well, well, you got to realize. Remember, you remember when LeBron? What was his name? The one that Isaiah? What was it? The one that LeBron ran away from in a fight?
Isaiah Thomas?
No,
Isaiah Stewart.
In Detroit.
Oh, Stewart. Isaiah Stewart. Yeah, Isaiah Stewart.
Yeah, I think you're right, Will.
It's like, no, he ran away from. Thank you, Will. No, he ran away. Detroit remembers those things. You're talking about Bird. They remember Bird. Not only he fought right on that floor, and then he flung the ball right at Lambier's head. They remember those things that someone like Bird would just put up an absolute fight. Parrish knocks Lambier on his ass. They're going to remember those things. So when a LeBron, who's supposed to be of this era, who's supposed to be intimidating, runs away from a fight, that's not going to get respect in Detroit.
Yeah, but didn't he get suspended one time, I think, for a game because of, if I recall, there was a 1-game suspension LeBron got hit with, if I remember right.
He did, but I don't think it was fighting.
Well, he got suspended nonetheless, but for something. I know we're not going to get into the whole.
I can't think of any fight that LeBron's ever been in. Ever.
No, but he did get suspended for a game, I believe, that he was involved with Detroit. I'm not, and I don't want to get us so far off base. I'm sure you'll have other things.
Hey, Will. Can you think of a fight by LeBron?
No,
not really. I did have a question for Scott though, real fast before we move on. Because you talk about the Pistons and Bulls rivalry. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I was sitting here thinking, and I was like, you know what? Isn't it more so just a rivalry between the two cities, Detroit and Chicago? Because you also got to think, Red Wings, Blackhawks, Lions don't like Bears. So is it always been? And you from around there? So is it always just kind of been like that Detroit versus Chicago kind of deal?
And Denzel, absolutely. Think about this. Okay, let's take it a step further. Okay, these two towns here, you got Lake Michigan, not Lake Illinois, right? Okay, that's
right. Yeah, that's true.
Right. You got, which is pretty funny, Lake Michigan. You have Michigan Avenue, and the Red Wings and the Blackhawks are original 6 rivals. The Pistons and the Bulls. Then Jordan. They had the Jordan rules because of Isaiah Thomas and the Pistons. How to guard
Tigers, White Sox are divisional.
Well, sure. And not only that, why don't you go back in your history, Banks? I know you like to research, pal. Then the Tigers played the Cubs in the World Series back in the 40s. I think they did there.
They did.
So then, and the Lions and the Bears, it's probably one-sided. Every time the Lions and the Bears play each other, it's always fun to watch. And they, the respective rivalry between them. So Denzel, you are 1,000,000,000% right that the rivalry goes beyond basketball, hockey, football, and baseball, and not with one Chicago team on the baseball end, but 2 when you go into the deeper aspect of baseball in general. But come on, the Lions and the Bears.
45 World Series was Cubs in Detroit.
Right. Well, okay. Well, like I said, you answered my question for me. Yeah. So I mean, think about it. And don't forget the Second City, the Comedy Club. Detroit copied that one from Chicago there as well. You didn't know that, did you?
Actually, no, I didn't.
Well, I'm giving you a little bit of history. You brought up a great question. I'm giving you some more answers.
God, now that we know you don't have the voice, all you guys, your beautiful looks.
Oh, yeah, right. Jacob, you're the best, man. I don't know about what I am super. At least the brain's working. I know last Sunday I wasn't able to be there because I was really not feeling good. But, hey, you know what? You guys figured out I do what I got to do. But, no, it's just, you guys are my teammates here. And I'll tell you right now, if there's ever ways I'm trying to fill in the blanks in certain places, our goal is to educate, inform, and be candid about what we're doing. And I think what's so great about this particular show is you guys really go down one of my passionate areas where we're going down memory lane. I mean, I know at some point we'll get around to doing Jerry Sloan when the time comes, whether it's you and us all 4 or Eichorn or whoever, but it doesn't make it. And again, now you connect the 2 cities, and we'll throw a little teaser out there. The one thing that we were going to do tonight was Jerry Sloan. Your connect between the Bulls and the Pistons during a great mid-70s matchup. It won't go any deeper. But Denzel, to answer your point, those 2 cities are much more connected than you realize. And the best part about them is the people in both those areas, to me, are super nice people. People in Illinois, I've always regarded as Illinois as one of my favorite cities ever. And, I'll always be partial toward Detroit. But I'll tell you what, Chicago, to me, will always be in my top 10 of areas. And I've been to all 50 states, traveled around a couple of key places in Canada. Yeah, well, all 50, man. I know. Give me that good look again, because I love that. And now the smile and the grin, too. Yeah, I've been all 50 states, been to Mexico a couple of times, some key places in Canada. I'm hoping that health permitting, I'll be able to do my one trip across the pond later on this year, But, yeah. But, no, that's a good point. It really is. And I'm glad that we had a chance to bring that up, something that, people. And you know what? They're only 4 hours away from I-94.
Yeah. They're both connect. Are they both connected on I-94 or
You take I-94 to get to either place, and that's
To
it.
either city. I thought so. Okay,
290 miles. I think
Yeah,
it's
there you go.
296.
Well, I don't look at miles. Yeah, I have a lead foot. I only count hours. Okay, I say 4 hours. And for people that have a slow foot, you might be lucky 5, depending on Chicago traffic.
depending upon you have. Well, now for our second Basketbros moment in time. You guys will enjoy this one. 1962 NBA Finals Game 5. Elgin Baylor torches the Celtics for 61 points and 22 rebounds en route to a 126-121 victory. Now, ultimately, the Celtics did win the series, but it was this performance by Elgin Baylor that definitely kept the Lakers in it. Baylor, again, we talked about Willis Reed in the upper echelon in the pantheon of Knicks greats. Elgin Baylor definitely in the Laker greats. But a performance like this, to go 61-22 on the biggest stage, absolutely speaks volumes. So I want to swing it over to Will and your thoughts on a performance like this, and quite possibly of Elgin Baylor as a whole.
So I did the same thing with Baylor as I did for Wilkins and Bird. But real quick, it's sad. Baylor was one of those greatest players of all time that never won a ring. Always a hard worker. Always gave 100%. Never won a ring, which stinks. It should have. If he should have, it could have been awesome. But nonetheless, I did some research. Game 1, he scored 35 points. He was 48% from the field. He was 100% from the free throw line. Game 2, he scored 36 points, 46% from the field, 100% from the free throw line. Game 3, field goal percentage 37%, free throw 81%, 39 points. Game 4, 50% from the field, 71% free throw percentage, 38 points. Game 5, field goal percentage 47%. Free throw percentage 89%, 61 points. Game 6, 40% from the field. Free throw percentage 85%, 34 points. Game 7, 32% from the field because he took a lot of shots in Game 7 because, of course, he was trying to win.
Right.
Free throw percentage 71%, and then 41 points. So this guy didn't score under 30 for any of these finals games. Talk
That's
about
nuts.
insanity. Like, you're lucky to average 30 points per game for a finals. Like, what? Like, you have two 60-point games, you have a bunch of 30-point games, and you have a 40-point game. Talk about an amazing finals where sure he lost, but talk about an amazing finals performance. Games 1 through 7. Yeah, we talk about the Jordans, the Birds, the Magic, the Kareems. This guy, despite not winning a finals, was an absolute dominant force when it came to NBA finals. This guy, in my eyes, despite not winning a ring, will be regarded as, in my eyes, a top 100 player in NBA history because look what he did in the finals. This finals is a testament where this guy literally went off and gave all in. So that's all I have to say.
Excellent commentary. Definitely one of the greatest never to have won it all. Well, let's swing it over to Jacob because once again you're the resident Celtics fan. But on a scale, I would say in analyzing this series on a scale of 1 to 10, how much of a threat was Elgin Baylor to the Celtics, even though the Celtics won the series?
Oh, every bit of it, 10. You're looking at 40 points a game. With that 61, you're looking at over 40 points a game.
Right.
With very, very close to that's every. And but you got to realize, well, how many assists did he have in that game? Does it say?
It didn't say. Let me see here.
I know he had like single-digit assists.
Man, that doesn't matter. I'm just asking.
I couldn't find it. Keep talking. I'll find it.
No, I was gonna say this. I was gonna say he had 61 and 22 rebounds. Right. Now remember, a few months ago we talked about the Jordan 69-point game. That was 18 rebounds. When you're putting up those type of numbers and getting the rebounds, getting the boards, and then you're considering how he can handle the ball, you know he's dishing out dimes too.
Mm-hmm.
That's all in a game. And it's like, but the thing about Elgin Baylor is you talk about the bad luck of life. It's like, how many
He had one
finals did
assist.
Huh?
He had one assist. He had one assist. One dime.
So, not that one. That's my point I was trying to make, is because these times you have these type of people right there. Sometimes you're dishing them out too. Because remember, there was a 60-point triple-double this year.
Yep.
There was a 60-point triple-double this year. That was Luka. So, I mean, there's those deals. But the biggest thing to realize is you talk about somebody is that he didn't win an NBA title. How many finals did he make? Good Lord. I mean, you run into the buzzsaw. I mean, the Boston is just a flat-out buzzsaw. I mean, each and every time it's like, but think about 22 rebounds. You're getting 22 rebounds on Bill Russell, who's basically probably got 25 himself.
That's insane.
So you're fighting him, and then you also fighting boards with Wilt. If you will,
for real, your own teammate.
Not really, not Wilt, not that year. Not that year, but I'm talking about, say that you're a rebounder, you get that, you're facing off against Wilt during the regular season and stuff. You're facing off against Willis Reed. You're facing off against, I'm just saying numbers. Not today. You're talking about people. You're talking about the people he'd face off against, and what was he, about 6'5"?
Baylor was, for 22 rebounds. And was he about, let's see, he was 6'5", yep.
Wow.
That's insane for somebody who's 6'5".
22 rebounds at 6'5". And he's facing off against, he did not have a Wilt during that time. Wilt's in Philly. But Wilt's in Philly. But he's facing off against those guys and getting boards. He's getting Russell and those things for that final. So those are the things we have to think about with Russ. I think about the all-around game. I think about the all-around game and the all-around everything that as being 6'5" and getting down into the trenches the way he did.
Yeah, absolutely. Want to swing it over to Scott real fast, and this actually may be the final topic. Well, actually, we might cover the Greg Popovich one real quick, but I just want to swing it over to Scott. Same question. On a scale of 1 to 10, even though the Celtics won the series, how much of a threat to the Celtics this series was Elgin Baylor?
Well, let me put the moderator's cap on for a moment. Can I, please?
Go for it.
All right, here's the deal. 61 points, which nowadays is almost a commonality with everybody putting up 50, 60 points. Anyways, in today's patty cake baker's man NBA. Okay, because that's exactly what it is. And back then, they didn't even have a 3-point shot, I don't believe either, did they?
Nope.
No, they did not.
Eventual 3-point play. If you hit 2-point shots with a drive to the basket, there's the 3. But think about this for a second. You guys just mentioned 6'5", right?
Mm-hmm.
So I'm going to go to you, Denzel, first. Of the two numbers, okay, 61 and 22, Denzel, you're first, okay? Which is the most impressive number of the two? 22
rebounds, because on the other side was Bill Russell. Baylor's only 6'5".
Okay.
Mind you, he's in the hole with giants. 6'10" and above, So, right. I mean, don't get me wrong, the 61 points with no 3-point shot, that is amazing. But to get those kind of boards, because you would think if somebody got 22 rebounds over Bill Russell, they must be 7 foot tall. No, he's only 6'5".
Right, okay.
So I'm going to go against the grain and say the rebounds.
All right, what about you, Will?
100% agree. You're in the land of the Giants, and you're getting 22 rebounds? Man, that's impressive.
And I'll go back to you, Jacob.
22 rebounds is the most impressive because 61 points can happen because we got to remember Bird got his 60 after they had 56 9 games earlier, 9 days later. And it was like, and that's just what happens when someone just keeps handing you the ball and you're having a hot night. 22 rebounds does not happen like that all the time, especially in the land of the Giants and you're 6'5".
And once again, let's not forget the fact that Wilt had 100 points, right? One time, correct?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay. So you know what? You know what we have amongst the four of us here? All four of us agree that 22 rebounds is by far and away the most impressive number. But for item number one, the guy's 6'5". 2, I think the competition he's playing against, to me, is all top 50 great athletes, not some of these guys of this era, which I still don't respect any of them in this era. You want to? I'm not drinking the LeBron Kool-Aid or the Durant or any of these other guys. Nothing against today's NBA, but I can tell you right now, it reminds me of Charmin. It's very soft, isn't it? And then how they sell Charmin, that's very, very soft. Well, that's the way this NBA is, very, very soft. And if you guys take this one-liner on your other basketball shows, you know it came from me. So, but the reality is this NBA is soft. The 22 rebounds easily trumps the 61 points. especially when you had Wilt Chamberlain getting 100. Kobe Bryant once had like 81, I think, or so,
81.
right, against Toronto, and Jalen Rose got the brunt of that. So, I mean, come on, 22 rebounds during a good, excellent, iconic, legendary era of basketball. And we have this yeah, it's good that they won 126 to 121, okay? But to me, 61 and 22 is surreal.
Well, think of it this way. You said it's Charmin, the game of but now is Charmin. I can say it. I can give you one better. What goes on the Charmin is what we can consider half the games in the NBA for each and every year.
Well, I like the way you just segue off my one-liners, Jacob. Maybe there's a reason why we work so well together. Not only is he intelligent, but he listens, but he knows the GMTA. And Vogel, I'm going to tell you something, buddy. Look at me right now. You've come a hell of a long way the last several weeks. And Denzel, you are what you are. You're awesome, baby. That's a little bit loud. I haven't much caffeine. I tea. But the reality is this, okay? I know Christner's going to play off my one-liners and try to dupe me or up me on them. But it's the truth, though. That's what, when you think about what the NBA is, it is soft. And to be able to get those kind of numbers at a time like that. And by the way, 1962 was the year I was born.
Oh, there we go.
Although December, well, a few months later. I was born in 1962. I'm a Christmas baby.
You were watching Inside the Womb. You were watching Inside the Womb, man. Come on.
Yeah, in the womb, man.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, the womb, man, who, by the way, was born on the bombing of Pearl Harbor to the date, December 7th, 1941. Boy, I'll tell you some great one-liners that'll never be duplicated anywhere but on Basketbros or Pundit, or wherever else you land on our particular shows, right, Will?
Say one thing about you bringing here. Let me bring this part about the J Reddit. There's a reason I love sideline sports. Okay. Is because we're not going to ever have producers getting into our ear and saying, well, we need a contrarian point of view, so sound like an idiot. No. You know, it's like maybe they don't say sound like an idiot, but they absolutely, without a question, say have a contrarian point of view. Because if they didn't, we wouldn't be hearing some of the goofiness that Kendrick Perkins says.
Hey, listen,
they say that because they want you to pander to a certain demographic, whatever demographic that may be.
I have no problem with contrarian as long as it's an intelligent contrarian. Just make sure that you draw the line there, guys, okay? Draw the line, contrarian and intelligence. If you got contrarian and el stupido, you know, I didn't know anything about Spanish, but I guess one of the words I learned was el stupido because I dated a Puerto Rican woman that used to call me that all the time. I said, well, I don't know anything about the language. At least I know that wasn't very nice to say to me. And I kicked her out anyway. So who knows where the hell she's at now. I wasn't el stupido when I got rid of her. You know how I got rid of this
chick? You were
chick?
El Genius.
Oh, I got news for you. I didn't pay. You know how I got rid of this chick? I didn't pay my electric bill and made her sweat, and then I paid it once I kicked her out of here. How do you like that?
Oh man, you smoked me. You smoked the Indian out of the tent.
No. So what happened was you were El Stupido to her, and then you became El Cheapo to she El Wento.
I don't know what to call that, but I think I'll agree with you because I'm still trying to figure out what El Stupido is. All I know is she got the L out of here. Okay, so go from there.
Absolutely. But we do have to wrap up here, guys. We're in the final minute. Thanks to everybody who watched Basketbros. Make sure you tune in to all of our shows on Sideline Sports, and also to hit the like button for this episode and the subscribe button for Sideline Sports. So for Will Vogel, Jacob Christner, and Scott, the Motor City Madmouth Morganrath, I'm glad he's back and had his Mountain Dew. I'm Denzel Snipes. We will see you in 7 days for more throwback basketball talk. Later.
Later. Yeah.